So what we're going to do next is we're going to turn this into an animation, and to do that we don't need a drawing package. What we need is an animation package. So click on the start button and search all programs, and what I'm after is Adobe Flash Professional. Now Adobe Flash Professional has recently changed its name. This is the 2015 version. I think it's now called Adobe Animate rather than Flash Professional, because this is the piece of animation software. So I'm going to click on that. Now I've got my Adobe Illustrator file open. So I'm trying to open up Flash as well. They're two quite large programs, and sometimes you might find it operates quite slowly, so sometimes it's worth, providing you're sure you've saved everything. So just click on Save As and just check. Yeah, Pac-Man Write is saved in my Maze Game Resources. It's worth closing down any of the large files you've got open, so that it allows the bigger files to open. So those are not responding, and this is just part of the fact that it's now trying to deal with two quite large programs open at the same time. I'll give it a minute or two, it will sort itself out. Okay, so this is Flash Professional, and it's got the front screen. We really want to ignore this. We want to produce a new file by File and New, and bring up this. Now there are various types of animation you can use depending on exactly what it is you want to do. The best general sort of file is the one that will normally come up selected, which is an ActionScript 3. If you knew you were definitely making the animation for a website, you might use a HTML5 or a WebGL, but we don't know where this is going to go in the end, so we're going to use an ActionScript 3. Now the other thing we might as well do is change it to the right size. We know that the Pac-Man we want to use is going to be 32 pixels by 32 pixels. And it's easier to do it here than save it as the file that's too big and then have to resize it in GameMaker. The frame rate of 24 frames per second means that a new picture is flashed upon the screen every 40th of a second. So you get 24 pictures making up each second, and that's called a frame rate. And that's a fairly standard frame. That's what sort of most cinema television will operate at, a frame rate of 24 frames per second. At that speed you can't see the pictures appearing individually. So I've got a 32 by 32 space, and it's going to default to 24 frames per second. I click OK, and it comes up with this. Now it will come up very, very small, because of course it is very, very small. So the first thing I want to do now is zoom in on that by using Control, hold down the Control button and click on the plus and get it a reasonable size so we can see it. Now I've already done my drawing. There are drawing tools in here, but it's not really designed as a drawing package. What they really expect you to do is draw somewhere else and bring the pictures in, which is what we are going to do, and that is File, and then that's Import, and we import it to the stage. Now the stage, if you think about this as a drama, which an animation is, a very short drama, then the place where the action occurs is on the stage. We could bring it into the library, and that would be a resource that we wanted to use later on, but we want to use this now, so it's Import to Stage. And I say it's a big slow program, so it's taking a second to have a think about it, and hopefully in a second it'll come up with the list. If it doesn't, it's definitely trying to think at the moment. And this of course because I've got quite a few other things open. For instance, the software that's actually videoing this thing is open, so mine is quite slow. You may just have to twiddle your thumbs for a second while that goes round and round in circles. And eventually, now I saved mine in my documents, I saved mine in my Year 8 folder, which is Year 8 Computing and IT, in my Maze Game and in my resources. So I've got various things inside here, but what I'm after is the Adobe Illustrator file, Pac-Man Write. That's the one I'm after. So I'm going to open that up and it's going to ask me a couple of questions. Okay, once it comes in, and first, artboard one, that's fine. Maintain edible paths, yes. I want to make sure I can still edit it. I don't want to flatten it out. Now flattening means taking separate pieces and turning them into one single piece. Again, I want to keep the text. I haven't got any text on here this time, but I might have. I want to keep the text editable. I want to keep it in layers. I don't want to make it one single flat layer. So maintain editable paths, editable text, and flash layers, and then I click on OK, and it comes in. You can see if I click on it, it's still two separate pieces, and that's exactly what I want. Now, what you have to think about here is, first of all, is how long we want the animation to be. Well, if the game lasts half an hour, let's say you have somebody who's very, very good at playing Pac-Man, they might make the whole game last half an hour. They might go from level to level to level. So the Pac-Man needs to be moving around and this, that and the other for half an hour. So do I need a half an hour long animation for the Pac-Man? Well, I don't know, because a very, very good player might play for 2 hours. And that's, so do we need a 2 hour animation? And actually I don't need either of those things. What I want is a short animation that repeats itself over and over. If you think about the animations in games like Pac-Man and in a lot of video games, what they are is the same animation that's quite short, but which is repeated over and over again to give the effect of constant movement. So my animation actually only wants to be 1 second long. So to do that, I'm going to start by clicking on the top section. I'm going to right mouse click on it, and I want to create a motion tween. In other words, I want to produce an animation, and I want to do it by tweening. Now in a second we'll show you, you'll be able to see what tweening means. So I click on this, it comes up with an error. It says, well, hang on a minute. To do this, you need to convert it to a symbol. Do you want to convert it from a picture to a symbol and then create a tween? Yes, please. And now down the bottom, it's created a layer which is just that top section. It defaults, unless you tell it something different, to 24 frames. So there's 24 individual pictures here, and the reason for that, of course, is 24 frames per second, so it's produced a 1 second long animation. Now if I wanted to produce a longer animation, I could quite simply click on here and insert frames or insert keyframes and make a longer animation, but actually now I'm perfectly happy with this animation at this length. So that's the top half of it. You might say, well, the lower half has disappeared. Well, it hasn't, because I've only told it to animate the top half, and if I cycle back down through the pictures all the way back to the beginning, it's at the moment, because I've only animated the top half, the bottom half only appears at the beginning. So I now need to click on the bottom half of the mouth, right mouse click, create a motion tween, same thing. You need to convert it to a symbol, click OK, and now I've got two layers. Layer 1, which is the top, and layer 2, which is the bottom. And I want to produce an animation for this. Now, if you can't remember animation from having done it before, animation is a series of pictures shown quickly one after the other. And what happens is, that fools the eye. The eye, instead of seeing a lot of pictures one after the other, the eye sees something which appears to be moving. And what we want in using motion tweens, remember we have to do a motion tween, is we want the computer to do most of the work. I don't want to have to draw 24 different pictures of this Pac-Man as it slowly moves from having his mouth open to his mouth closed to his mouth open again. I want the computer to do most of the work. Now, because this is going to be a looping animation, when it gets to the end of the 1 second, I just want it to repeat again. I don't want it to jump between the end of this animation and starting again. I want a smooth animation. And the way to do that is to lock the end of the animation in place. So that at the moment, if I slide this backwards and forward, nothing seems to be happening. It seems to be just nothing at all. It's like, what's that doing? Well, it's showing the second of animation, but the very beginning and the middle and the end are all absolutely identical. And I want to keep the end identical to the beginning. So go to the end, click on the top section, and it now says I can do various things on here, and I can find the right one. Beg your pardon, I'm doing that in the wrong place. I should be doing it on here. Beg your pardon, right mouse click on here, and I want to insert a keyframe. And what it says is, okay, a keyframe is where you lock the position, essentially. You say this position is not changeable by the computer. So I want the position to be the same, and so I click down here again, so click on the path. I want the rotation to be the same. And what's happened is it's put a black dot in, and the black dot is saying that's now a keyframe. That isn't going to be edited by the computer. Okay. I need to do the same thing on the lower one. So right mouse click over the end of it. Mouse will stop working. I want to insert a keyframe for position, and I want to insert a keyframe. Again, I need to make sure I'm right clicking down here. Insert a keyframe for rotation, and that black dot appears. So now the beginning and the end of the animation are the same. So the only thing I want to change is the middle of the animation. So I've now slid this red line to the middle of the animation. I'm going to click on the top section, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to rotate it. Now to do that I need to transform, and I need to change it to a free transform. So that's a right mouse click, transform, and a free transform. I want to be able to do it by hand, and I've rotated that section around. Now, so again, notice a black dot appeared. It's saying, oh, you've done something there, and the computer now says, well, there's a black dot here at the beginning which says it's there, and one at the end which says it's there, and one in the middle that says it's here. And what the computer does now is, in any space that there isn't a black dot, the computer guesses how to make the Pac-Man's top jaw, so to speak, move into the right position. So I don't have to find the right position for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of the frames I don't have to work out the position for. And notice it goes back, because to get from here back to there, it's got to move back up. So it moves from the beginning, it moves down to here, and then back up to there. Now if I go back to this position, sort of he's disappearing backwards up the screen a bit, so I'm going to move him, I'm going to move that one across to there, and then click onto the lower jaw, and exactly the same thing. I need to rotate it around so his mouth's closed, and move him across so he's in position. So now if I move back to the beginning, his mouth is open, the computer is guessing I need to move it slowly, and it's sliding the Pac-Man across and rotating it around slowly till it gets to the keyframe in the middle, which I've set, and then it's got to move it again to the keyframe at the end. So the great thing with tweening, in-betweening essentially, is the computer guesses the position of the objects in between the places I've decided. So instead of having to make decisions about 24 frames, I've only had to make decisions about 3 of them. And if I put that on loop and put that on play, I've now got, I need to extend that because it's only quite short there, I've now got a Pac-Man who opens and closes his mouth and is exactly the same at the end as he is at the beginning.